the end of chapter 24, Nagarjuna uses the phrase asampraptasya samprapta, which means obtaining of the unobtained, or attaining what was not attained. So that can be understood on many levels. Just reflecting on it now, I was thinking of Gary Lineker, the former England football striker, saying that a striker's life was 99% frustration. So you think of Gary Lineker punching in the air, having scored a goal, but his point was that mainly a striker's being frustrated by a defender or by missing the target or whatever. And so that's an example in sport of obtaining what was unobtained when the ball hits the back of the net. So a translator's life is not as dynamic as that, but there are times when one punches the air, and one of those times for me was 18 months ago in the summer of 1986, when I was struggling with the translation of the title of chapter 2, which I'm going to explain now. And the title, let's listen to it. Let's listen to the chapter title as recited by Kashinath Nyapane of bodhisvara.com.
अथ gatāgata-gamyamāna-parīkṣā नाम dvitīyaṁ prakaraṇam.
Gatāgata-gamyamāna-parīkṣā nama dvitīyaṁ prakaraṇam. So prakaraṇam means chapter, nominative singular neuter. Dvitīyaṁ means the second, nominal singular neuter, agreeing with prakaraṇam. So dvitīyaṁ prakaraṇam, the second chapter. Nama means named or titled. Parīkṣā means exploration. And gatāgata is gata plus agata. And gata is the past participle of the verbal root gam. And gam means to go, or to go to, or to move. So gatāgata is Nagarjuna's way of expressing the past and the future. So gata means gone. That describes the past. Past participle gata, gone. And agata, with the negative prefix a, means not gone to, not yet gone to. So that expresses the future. In the Sanskrit dictionary, agata is also given as death, because we haven't gone to it yet. So far so good. But Xiaoyong Ye, who together with Anne MacDonald are the sort of two experts on the original Sanskrit text of Nagarjuna, modified the title. Xiaoyong Ye amended the title to gatāgata-gamyamāna-parīkṣā, exploration of gata, the gone, agata, the not gone to, the not yet gone to, and gamyamāna. How do you translate gamyamāna? So I'll tell you what my thought processes were, because so gamyamāna is the present participle passive of gam. So gamana is the present participle. It means going. Gamana, going. We'll come across that word in the chapter itself. Gamana means going. Gamyate means is gone, or is moved. And gamyamāna is the present participle of the passive. So my first way of understanding this is, so Gamyamana, because it's the present participle, is Nagarjuna's way of pointing to the present. Gata, the gone, is the past. Agata, the not yet gone to, is the future. And Gamyamana is the present participle. So it's pointing to what's not the past or the future. So my understanding, based on the Alexander technique, based on experiences in the Alexander technique, was he's sort of pointing to non-doing, I thought. Gamyamana could mean being moved. So in the past is gone. The future may never come. But here and now, when I'm practicing Zazen, the point is that I don't want to do the breathing, for example. I want nature to take over, in which case my respiratory mechanism, which might be the whole of me, and beyond that might be the whole of nature, is being moved. So I thought Gamyamana, I thought it's an expression of non-doing. So I'm giving that as an example of wrong understanding. So when asampraptasya samprapta, the obtaining of what was unobtained, on one level, a more intellectual level than Garudinika was talking about, is understanding what previously you didn't understand. And so I had the experience of doing Zazen, me doing it, me doing the moving for several years. And then when I came across the Alexander technique, I realised that understanding was false. The true meaning of dropping off body and mind is that you don't do it, it does you. So then there's this kind of grasping on to what I've understood. And of course, in that state, you haven't really understood at all. So again, translating this chapter, that's why translation can be good practice if one's sincere about it, because with a wrong understanding, something doesn't fit. And so I was quite proud of this sense of Gamyamana. Yeah, the other previous translators hadn't got the point. This is what I've understood from my practice, and it means the now being moved. Nagarjuna is talking about a real Zazen practitioner, not someone who's pursuing right posture, but someone who's sitting upright in accordance with the principles that F.M. Alexander laid out. When Alexander said, when an investigation comes to be made, it'll be found that everything we're doing in this practice is what's being done in nature when the conditions are right. The difference being that we're learning to do it consciously. So you see, this is where ego comes in. You know, I'm the one who understood the connection between Dogen's teaching and what Alexander discovered, you know, and the other people are all going around doing this, that and the other. They haven't understood. That's why and still less of scholars understood. That's why nobody has really understood that Gamyamana means the now being moved. So that was all very well, but when I actually came to memorize the chapter and recite it verse by verse, at a more humble kind of practice, really. It's like a child learning a nursery rhyme when you memorize the verses like that. Although it's still a kind of obtaining of the unobtained, when you've actually memorized it and you can sit there and just recite it off by heart, that's attaining something. It's not attaining anything particularly original, considering that monks in India were doing it hundreds and hundreds of years ago, in their thousands and tens of thousands. But anyway, it's still something if you can memorize it. But as I was doing that practice, it didn't fit. The now being moved didn't fit. The chapter didn't work. So I had to go back again and think the meaning of Gam. Gam means to go to, including Manasa Gam, to go to with the mind. That means to understand. So gam includes not only the sense of going or moving, but understanding. Going to with your understanding, or going to with your experience. And it was the dictionary saying agata means death. So how is death described as agata? It's not yet, doesn't mean not yet moved or not yet gone. It means not yet gone to, not yet experienced. So I was trying to find a word, because in Sanskrit they're all from the same verbal root gam. Gata, gone, agata, not gone to. Then how do you translate gamyamana? Not being gone or not being gone to? Sorry, not gamyamana is not negative. It is sometimes later in the chapter, but gamyamana, does it mean being moved, being gone to? And then the translation at some point hit me. Gamyamana means being visited, now being visited. Because you want a word that includes the sense of going and going to, and in that sense of going to, experiencing. So it's a word that in Sanskrit includes practice and experience. And that's why I sort of punched the air when I arrived at the word visiting, because that's the main point of Dogen's teaching in Shobo Genzo, that practice and experience are not separate. But in Chinese and Japanese, they are separate as words. You've got shu sho, practice is shu is practice or training, and sho is enlightenment or experience. So shu sho is practice and enlightenment, or practice and experience. And Master Dogen was always at pains to say, practice and experience are one. But actually it's quite a unsatisfactory expression, because Nagarjuna would say that there is no practice and no experience. Because if you say practice and experience are one, you're separating practice and experience into two words and saying they're one thing. So Nagarjuna's way of looking at things, he would say, no, there is no self-existing practice separate from experience. There's no self-existing experience separate from practice. So the word gam, the Sanskrit word verbal root gam, because it's so all-encompassing and so ambiguous, it gets around that problem. And fortunately, we've got the same thing in English, because if we translate gamyamana, the being visited, or the now being visited, it gets around the problem of language, where we're usually talking to the subject, verb, object. I move myself, or I see the trees. Subject, verb, object, I see the trees. And then you could turn it around and say, well, the trees are experiencing me. And that's the kind of expression we would find in Chinese Zen and in Shobo Genzo. But gamyamana expresses what's happening now as the now being visited, without discussing a subject and an object. And so now being visited could be describing me being visited by the trees, or it could describe the trees being visited by me, if you wanted to separate it in those ways. But it doesn't enforce a separation in the first place. So that's what gamyamana means. And in the old text of MMK, gamyamana was not in the title; it was gatāgata-gamyamāna-parīkṣā. But I'm sure that the real meaning of the chapter is all about gamyamana, the being visited, the now being visited. So gatāgata-gamyamāna-parīkṣā nama dvitīyaṁ prakaraṇam. MMK chapter 2, exploration of the visited, the not yet visited, and the now being visited. So what the now being, you see, again, in English, people are fond of talking about being mindful of the present moment. You know, Eckhart Tolle is popular with his idea of the power of now. You know, the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist, but we've got now. But in chapter 19 of MMK, Nagarjuna briefly dismisses the idea that now exists, that time exists, because actually what we do is we turn everything into a thing, including time, and including now. So in translating, so gamyamāna means being visited. In translating it as now being visited, the now being visited, now is, it sounds better. Exploration of the visited, the not yet visited, and the now being visited. It somehow sounds better in English than exploration of the visited, the not yet visited, and the being visited. So it's a little bit of poetic license to include the word now in the translation of Gamyamāna, but I think that's what I'm going to go for, translate it as the now being visited. But the important thing I want to emphasize is that in that phrase, the now being visited, now is an adverb. There's no making of now into the present moment, so-called, because that is prapañca, that's turning being visited, which is practice and experience. It's turning it into a thing, a non-empty thing, which is exactly against the intention of Nagarjuna in MMK. And relevant to that, I'd like to talk about my experience on the teaching table, or couch as she called it, of the Alexander teacher Marjorie Barlow, who was the niece of F.M. Alexander. And my experience on Marjorie Barlow's teaching table was very much that she caused me to be present to my end gaining. I expressed it like that. At the time I was having lessons with Marjorie Barlow, I had an Alexander pupil who was formerly a heroin addict, a junkie, and part of salvation for him was coming to this idea of being mindful of the present moment. You know, that was his buzz, to live in the moment and get his buzz out of that rather than from heroin. So he's very attached to this thing of being in the present. But as an Alexander teacher teaching him, I could see that his approach to being mindful of the present is what in Alexander technique we would call end gaining. So it wasn't, it was something urgent, something desperate in it. You know, it was a kind of attachment, trying to be mindful of the present, and it was possibly just a sort of an extreme example of what many Buddhists do in their effort to be mindful. It was particularly pronounced in his case, and it was particularly clear to me because I was contrasting what was going on in my teaching room with the way that Marjorie Barlow taught me. You know, so the fact that he was trying could well have been a reflection of my lack of skill as a teacher as much as his own propensity to end gain. But I said something to him during the course of the lesson that, even though it was my own words, it struck me as being really true, and it struck me that Marjorie's teaching, I'd somehow expressed it in my own words. So I said to him, don't end gain to be present. Be present to your end gaining. And afraid it's Alexander jargon, so I struggle to put it into non Alexander words. But the now, it's very much related to this chapter. So Nagarjuna is at pains not to talk of the now in such a way that we believe in the now as a thing, and try in a sort of a narrow-minded, trying way to get our dirty paws on the present moment. So when the Buddha talks about mindfulness in the section on breathing, he doesn't say be mindful of breathing. It's not that we turn breathing into a thing that we want to be mindful of. So mindfulness of breathing is the usual way of translating it, or some translators will say mindfulness with breathing, which is in some ways better, although it sounds a bit strange. So what we have in the Pali Sutta is Sabakaya-pati samvedi asasi samiti sikkati. Sabakaya-pati samvedi pasasi samiti sikkati. So tisikati means she trains himself, herself. Sabakaya pati samvedi means being mindful of the whole body, or being mindful with the whole body. Or so prati means like going back. Sam means together. Vedi is from the verbal root vid, like in vidyate. It means to notice, to be aware of. So prati, back, sam, together, vedi, being aware. So it's like integral aware, going back to integral awareness, sabakaya, with the whole body, or of the whole body. Again, Sanskrit lends itself better than English to not being so divisive, if you like. So whole body, going back together awareness, asasi sami, I will, future, breathe in, and pasasi sami, I will, future, breathe out. So why did the Buddha put those in the future? Because he's not pointing us in the direction of trying to focus on what's going on now, because we can't. And if we to think like that is to separate what's going on now and me here with my attention trying to focus on it. So you see, when you look at the choice of vocabulary of the Buddha and Nagarjuna, in a sense you're communing with them in a way you can only do by looking at the original, going back to the original records of their words. There's meaning in the Buddha speaking in the future tense. I will breathe in, I will breathe out. He's not trying to focus mindfully on the breathing that's happening right now. The effort is to inform the body with thought, and to have the intention that I will breathe in, will breathe out. I won't hold the breath. That's what the intention is. I'm intending not to interfere with the breathing, not to hold the breath. It's not trying to be present, you see. It's not trying to be present. It's more being present to trying. And that's exactly what I experienced on Marjorie Barlow's teaching table. She would take me through the Alexander directions again and again, encouraging me to say no to trying to be right, saying no to end gaining, saying no to doing the directions. So you just think the directions, don't try to do them. Let the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up, to let the back lengthen and widen, sending the knees forwards and away. or if you're lying down with your knees bent, sending the knees up to the ceiling. All together, one after the other. And then she would ask me to do something. She would say, move a leg. And my job was to say no to the idea of moving the leg. Because if I didn't say no to the idea of moving the leg, I would tense up and that would interfere with the breathing. So it's like coming back, pratīkṣā, to integral Vedi awareness of the whole of yourself and the whole of the environment. And so then Marjorie would say, move the leg, and he'd say, no, I'm not interested in endgaining. It's bringing the attention back to integral awareness of myself, and I intend to keep breathing. My intention, primary intention, is not to do a movement or not to gain an end. The intention is to leave the respiratory mechanism, to allow the respiratory mechanism, which is the whole of me, to work. So this is true mindfulness of breathing. I'm not saying that I'm a teacher of true mindfulness of breathing. I'm saying when you read what the Buddha said and understand what Marjorie taught, the two they're very consistent. It's not about trying to focus on the here and now, because then you're making the here and now into a thing which you want to focus on. Okay, so I don't think I've explained this very well, but it's an introduction to a chapter in which we're going to, verse by verse, consider the same point, centered on understanding that gatāgata-gamyamāna means the now being visited. gatāgata-gamyamāna-parīkṣā nama dvitīyaṁ prakaraṇam. Chapter 2. Exploration of the visited, the not yet visited, and the now being visited.